Hey bitches, I'm gonna be reacting to Gravity Falls and Rick and Morty are connected. This is a conspiracy theory. Anyways, these are my two favorite cartoons. I'm not gonna be rambling that much, so I'm just gonna get to it.
Welcome to Cartoon Conspiracy. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm your host Alyssa, but because we have a huge theory, we decided to ask Shelby, our super intern, to help us out.
Hi! Yeah, we're going to go over a theory that involves cryptic messages and scientific theory because we're going over these two shows, Gravity Falls and Rick and Morty. They have a lot in common. Young whippersnappers traveling through different dimensions with their elderly relatives, chaos ensues, science.
And one ended on a sweet note, while the other is leaving us hanging off a cliff because there's no release date yet. You'd think that there'd be no further speculations. Not to mention that they're on separate cable networks.
But that doesn't mean that they exist in the same universe, right?
Is there a possibility that Ford Pines and Rick Sanchez are actually friends? Although these two shows have completely different homes and creators, there are so many hints that are suggesting that these two old geniuses might have not been so far away from each other. Gravity Falls is very similar in its subject matter, mostly during season 2 and during the Weirdmageddon episodes. This is mostly a result of Ford Pines, the twin brother of Grunkle Stan, building a universe portal and disappearing into it for a long period of time, around 30 years. The universe portal gives Ford access to travel across the multiverse. The multiverse is a hypothetical set of possible universes, including the one that we currently live in. Well, we have clues to show you that Rick and Ford had crossings before, whether indirectly or directly. In the episode of Gravity Falls, Society of the Blind Eye, Grunkle Stan's mug, notepad, and pen go flying into the universe portal after he gets it up and running again. And last but not least, there's a clue in the real-life Gravity Falls Journal 3. Alex Hirsch released a real-life Journal 3 that is canon to the series in July 2016, with a Blacklight special edition that comes out in June 2017. This real-life Journal 3 shows pages that we've seen in the Gravity Falls, as well as pages that we haven't seen before. In the real-life Journal 3, there is a page that has a wanted poster of Ford on it. On the poster, there are coded messages written in cipher language. When translated, the message reads, "Rick was here." If you aren't familiar with Gravity Falls' cipher language, I suggest checking out our Know Your Show on Gravity Falls to learn more about it. It's all entirely possible. In Gravity Falls, it is frequently brought up that Ford has traveled through multiple different dimensions. It's all confirmed from his possession of the infinity-sided die, which Ford claims is outlawed in 9,000 dimensions. We can assume that Ford knows about these 9,000 dimensions because he's been to those 9,000 dimensions. It's also smart to note that in Weirdmageddon 3, Take Back the Falls, Bill Cipher mentions that the dimension through the portal is completely flat. Bill also mentions to Ford that he liberated the 2D world and is now here to liberate the real world. Bill also mentions to Ford that he liberated the 2D world and was here to liberate the real world.
To give you a brief rundown, Rick and Morty follows the misadventures of Rick Sanchez and his grandson Morty as they go off completing challenges across the multiverse. In the episode of Rick and Morty, Close Encounters of the Rick Kind, we see these items falling out of the same portal that Rick has opened up. In Big Trouble in Little Sanchez,
I never noticed
when Jerry
that.
is taking off his helmet during marriage counseling, Bill Cipher is actually seen on the screen of the control panel. Does this mean Bill Cipher not only has a role to play in Gravity Falls, but in Rick's universe as well? We are aware that Ford's portal actually leaks out into Bill's universe. But how on earth did he end up jumping through multiple dimensions? The same way that Rick does. A portal gun. The theory goes that for Ford to travel through multiple dimensions as freely as Rick does, they must have stumbled upon each other in Bill's dimension. This means either Rick lent Ford his portal gun,
Bill's supposed
or
to be,
actually gave him the
like,
chemical
Illuminati,
compositions
right?
to create his own portal gun. Or we can take a dark turn and say that Rick and Ford were enemies, and that Ford actually stole Rick's portal gun. What we do know is that Rick has access to the dimension that Ford's portal leads to. Otherwise, the notepad, pen, and mug would have never fallen through one of Rick's portals. In Rick and Morty, Rick actually acknowledges that he's a cartoon, which we've covered in another cartoon conspiracy some months earlier. So in a way, these two theories link hand in hand. Is he referring to Rick's world in which Rick has the knowledge of alternate realities? Now keep in mind that alternate realities and alternate universes are one and the same.
We only stress this because Rick and Morty tend to use both of these terms interchangeably.
The definition of universe is all existing matter in space considered as a whole. But maybe they exist in the same multiverse. Rick and Morty plays a lot with the concept of the quantum multiverse. It's a scientific theory in which an individual simply follows one of those many possible paths into their present reality, while all the other paths continue on independent of the person through the incollapsible wave function of quantum mechanics. Each of these paths branches off into an entirely different reality.
Now that we got all the science out of the way, let's focus on the theory at hand. So it turns out that Gravity Falls and Rick and Morty don't actually exist in the same dimension.
No, Rick actually belongs to dimension C137.
And Ford says that he's in 46 '// whatever that means.
Whatever that means.
But it turns out there's actually a 2D dimension that are in both Gravity Falls and Rick and Morty. So on April 1st, 2015, Alex Hirsch went onto the Gravity Falls subreddit on reddit.com and pretended to be Bill Cipher, answering questions. Username Archive Mode asked, "Do you know what spawned your existence?" Bill answered, "Edwin Abbott Abbott has a decent idea." Edwin Abbott Abbott wrote a novel called Flatland, which talks about a fictional two-dimensional world where there is a hierarchy of shapes. Triangles were in the low caste. In Journal 3, Ford stumbles upon a two-dimensional dimension where triangles are also on the low end of the hierarchy. But this dimension can't be Bill's because Bill destroyed his dimension.
I find this quite interesting because there's a theory that suggests that Rick actually destroyed his own dimension, C137. This is suggested through the pilot episode in which it's revealed that Rick has been away for about 20 years. However, in Close Encounters of the Rick Kind, we see Rick silently weeping to an image of infant Morty on a screen. Is it possible that this dimension was actually destroyed?
Do you think that Rick was actually sad that he destroyed his dimension like Bill was?
Bill has a heart? What?
According to the Axolotl from Dipper and Mabel in the Curse of the Time Pirates book, he says a poem about Bill. Saw his own dimension burn, misses home and cannot return. Says he's happy he's a liar, blame the arson for the fire. So it turns out that Bill had all this physical power, but he didn't have the social power to use it, so he decided to destroy his whole dimension. But he didn't want to.
Interesting.
For his own sake.
But Alyssa, what does that mean? Why was Bill on the control panel in Rick and Morty? What does that suggest?
Well, I actually have an answer for you from the AMA session. During the AMA Reddit session with Bill Cipher, username Pacifica asked, "How would a girl like me go about crushing her enemies?" And Bill answered, "Increasing my power is easy and anyone can do it. Just draw my form anywhere in your human world. Each image of me acts as a peephole from my dimension to yours. The more I see, the more I know. The more I know, the greater my power. The greater my power, the more enemies of yours I can crush. Just shake my hand." So putting Bill Cipher's image into Rick and Morty means that he can see into their world. Maybe to watch Rick, maybe so that he can take over their dimension. We don't really know, but Bill has a lot of power and he wants to use it.
This theory is a mix of all in good fun and psych, it's the multiverse. We're going to go through the all in good fun aspect of this crossover. Alex Hirsch, the creator of Gravity Falls, and Justin Roiland, the co-creator of Rick and Morty, used to work in a tiny office together for Disney Channel's Fish Hooks. They both dreamed of having their own shows and abusing the power bestowed upon them. Spoiler alert, they did.
When that dream became a reality, Hirsch and Roiland decided to put Easter eggs into each other's shows to blow people's minds. When asked if there would ever be an ultimate Rick and Morty and Gravity Falls crossover, Hirsch responded that the winking nods between both shows was just the right balance. Anything else would be portrayed as an annoying cash grab. Now, with all that history out of the way, I do believe that art can stand independently from its creators. So it's totally safe to say, and possibly predict, that Ford and Rick's story is not quite finished yet.
Although Gravity Falls has ended as a series, we should bring up that Rick and Morty is due for their third season, so a lot could happen. Even if Ford just doesn't pop out of nowhere, Easter eggs are a thing to look out for. Could we learn more about Rick and Ford's relationship in Rick and Morty Season 3? Is the story of Gravity Falls not yet at an end?
All in all, this theory does stand very strongly on its own. You can't simply deny that these two worlds can never meet, because they clearly have.
So with all of these universes in mind, and the plausibility of Rick and Ford actually being friends, I'm going to rate this theory 4 interdimensional rifts out of 5.
I agree.
Yeah. But what do you think? Let us know in the comments section below.
And stay tuned for next week for a new mystery guest from the Channel Frederator Network.
And remember, Frederator loves you.
What do you guys believe? Let me know down below.